No, Justin, you're wrong. I don't mind explaining as long as it's the truth. How many times are you gonna rate the calls on this one? I'm gonna fill my little coffee cup and then I'll come back and spill the beans for you about what I thought happened to John Hans. What's your list? When you got roster people you blame me for, you blame me for this whole thing, don't you? The only reason I'm a little bit mirthful is that I know Pittsburgh Gap. They ruined me. I haven't had a life. This hard won palace here. Not much to show for a life. But I can hear him. You don't have to tell me. It's not absolute. I'm not making secret tapes of Justin, but he's saying, "Oh, Queerball's hand wringing about John Hans." Okay, I met John Hans once. He asked my opinion about something in passing. Big deal. Uh, this is a very good example of where deception um, causes a lot of harm, self-deception and misinformation. But the truth is the truth. My first impression when I heard that John Hans' plane landing gear had locked up and that the rescue plane was a disaster and that he was killed. I'm sorry that happened. Things like that are horrifying. Um, I don't like that that happened any more than I like what happened on 911. Literally, don't like it. My first thought was that it was something that Diamond, the Gaules' crowd, had done. The reason was because at the time, I mistakenly believed that the leaders of the Seattle gay community, the West Coast gay community, people who were most stricken and powerful as a result of the enormity that began when I was a medical library clerk, and about which I had to gather all my wits to reckon. Um, had realized from Mount Desert Island that I was right, that it was planned, and that they had lashed out at a symbol of Pennsylvania power. That was my impression. You can see that's perfectly rational. Now, a person could argue, well, you misled them because that's not true. That's not what happened. It wasn't planned, and Mount Desert Island didn't prove it. And the reason why I became suspicious that something other than what my first impression was had happened was that it changed the subject. And I thought, this is strange in a way, because people around Pennsylvania were a little bit leery of Jim Queerball coming home from a place called Mount Desert Island, yakking up about some kind of weird experiment. And now suddenly they didn't care anymore. They were raging Cajun to wear their horns proudly. Now you have to understand what was going on. I just saw Hakeem Jeffries talk about Rodney King, which I remember, 1992, when I was in love. Well, there was shortly after that the Branch Davidians was going on. Waco, Texas went fire, and it had shades of Jonestown with Jim Jones, where Franklin Graham praised Weezo for freeing up some land for the Godfather or whatever. But Timothy McVeigh's bombing of Oklahoma Federal was an outgrowth of um, the Branch Davidian fire. And some dude came over to my house and scribbled in my grandmother's Bible when they took my sweetheart from me. He scribbled in the book of Timothy. I was so hyped up at the loss of my girlfriend, I didn't even want to touch my grandmother's Bible because some other man had touched it. They were, in other words, playing a spiritual mongering. Al Gore and his buddy, something bit me in the neck of my eyes, rolled out of my eyelids. It's horrible. This was an emergency room record, Shadyside Hospital, a neighbor. I was at Ross Moscow Apartments. So, Rufus, Reverend Harold T. Lewis behind his joint. Sean Brooks and these guys were whooping it up about something. And there was some kind of, it turned out there was a pussy ball war game going on. The black man had claimed Midori Goto. I didn't really know who Trump was. I didn't realize that Rosa Clemente had been bought for her to attack me, to tomato bomb me for Paul McCartney by Donald Trump. And they said something about royal blood, and then Princess Diana gets. Raymond was beside himself about that. Really, really, really beside himself about that. And there were weirdo indications. Somebody asked me if I'd ever played royalty before that happened. Weirdo indications from the crowd around Michael Todd and Justin Chang and who's that prick, Edgar Snyder. Food weapon crazies, the ones who supported Tim Kaine's support of Ronald Reagan, people you can never shake, who monger, veterans vendettas, with tabula rosas and stuff. It gets creepy. But the point is that Diamanda Gallis, her gang may have had a motive other than the one I presumed, because Diamanda Gallis was photographed with a stiletto outside World Trade Center and was actually protecting Gail Burstyn. So instead of protesting Mount Desert Island, where I proved that there was a premeditated AIDS war gang, proved it. They were changing the subject because they didn't want it to get around because they were behind it. And they were misleading everybody. Now, the queers saw money, so they don't care. They say the sale is that John Lennon really died. They don't care that there was a Houdini stunt pulled, and that they're backing their own persecutors because there's money to be made. See, this is the mentality of capitalism at its worst. And of course, the left is behind it too. I mean, you go to they castrate me for refusing to date rape, and all the giggly girls at Navos lockup say he had it coming, and Ringo pats them on their behinds. And the left say that's cool, and the right say that's cool. And Rosa Clemente gets funding for a tomato bomb from Paul McCartney from Von Trump. So it's a mutual assistance package in covering up Mount Desert Island. So, see, the thing is they use me for a dummy. The natural language system was using me as kind of a bizarre pre-seizure tabulation mechanism to see what the queer bait spits out and the irrationality, and we'll plug it into our gyration computer, replete with Branch Davidians and Pittsburgh Penguins from Czechoslovakia on a spine-tingling neon prophet Pink Floydian pink phone to Putin and his buddy Trump tune. And this is the mentality that takes root when you have an arms race in a free world, because they have to justify their stupidities. They can't just get along with each other for some reason. So they have this dummy who doesn't know anything about it, and they're going, who, and making spy cam movies. You know, licky chops for Sotheby's and the Croquet Gusta in New York. You know, this is all New York politics, right? They're going, who. Wait until he finds out that we say he could have saved John Lennon. Who. So that by the time they get around to me finding out that they say I could have saved John Lennon, they've racked up a whole roster. And I'm supposed to apologize to the Croquet Gusta for Hiroshima. I'm supposed to pay the price for Mother Russia. I'm supposed to make amends by service of my wifey to Teresa. I'm supposed to, cater to Pink Floyd and Kerry Kennedy's bizarre idea of dragging me kicking and screaming into the limelight. I'm supposed to disembowel myself for Prince Charlie because of theft. And who says this loudest and clearest as time on the galls, moon unit zap, and hair? You get the joke? Hair was behind Mount Desert Island. Get the joke? They created lemmings, and John Lennon pulled a Houdini. Ha 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 ha. He's got a stripe on his chin. How he won the war? He was chinning the Vestal Israeli Virgin. And they had one of the Dalai Lama's lesbians for a magic religion with an aquiline nose. And a name resembled T. Simon Farrisone. Come in Greenpeace me after Leslie jilted me for someone named Ken. Ken Doll, his weird goo-goo-eyed Israeli best friend. That's Swarthmore. Right? We're going to metamorphose into a George in one way. Dalai Lama, please bell me up when you're ready to enter Nirvana. And if that's not what we're going to do, can we get back to our homework, please? And Prince Harry, would you mind your manners towards somebody who knew nothing about it, would never have done anything to you? I admit I was happy to meet Peter Gabriel when I met him. I thought it was exciting, beautiful, exciting. I admit that. If that was harmful to your intelligence system, I don't see why it would be. And you put me through the weird laughing box idea of impacting a neuroplasm and then extruding things through Jaime Carbonell's mistranslation system at Carnegie Mellon University. You think that's legitimate? Well, they're making off out the Trumpy 2 door with $8 million of stuff from the Carnegie. You're stealing my paintings and saying I'm a reckless driver at Kelly schools. Get a grip. I no longer hurt your mother than I drove recklessly at Kelly school. Get a grip. And don't drag me kicking and screaming into politics. I would have been the first to say I'm too messed up. I need some kind of rehabilitation. You come in and bother me in the recovery program. They poison me in my mouth. I'm trying to sit in the recovery program and write my beautiful puts me in my mouth. What? And then they say, and they rip him out of Shannon Harps over a penny line because some other dude, some black widow, has these long beard white dudes who say, I stole grain stamps with someone named Edward I Pison when I was a kitty. And that made Greg Carl spill white paint all over her driveway or something. And Fudgy had to clean it up. I mean, we get a phenomenological masterpiece from these Branch Davidians. I mean, it may not be a masterpiece, but it's like a tumbling of fluxus linkage, weird stuff that comes pouring out of their bastardized ideas of Pink Floydianism's brain insight, fair weather backstabbery from the honky tonk. The castles in, you Lapida, or wherever Mick Jagger imports the 14-year-olds from Oregon that are now available.